train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country, be a real American. Brothers, brother, brothers, brother, 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 brother. You know something, Mean Gene? Well, you know something, Mean Gene? Well, you know you're exactly right, Mean Gene. And what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Friday. Hope you have a great weekend planned for you today. I got a great show planned for us today. We're going to start by talking about Hulk Hogan, who passed away yesterday. We mentioned it yesterday in the middle of the show, but I think there are further implications and a further story for us to examine as it relates to Hulk Hogan, an icon in the wrestling community, an icon in the pro wrestling community, an icon in Hollywood, and just someone that, for me, I have fond memories, and I was not the biggest wrestling fan, but Hulk Hogan was someone that cut through all the noise and became a superstar and an icon both in the pro wrestling world, but also in Hollywood. And his passing yesterday, I think, says something about what social media has done to American culture and American society. And it speaks to why things have become so divided. And so I want to start the show there, and then we'll have some panel discussions as it relates to Hulk Hogan and the division that's transparent or obvious right now in terms of the way people are remembering Hulk Hogan and what that says about American culture. We'll start there. We'll have a little panel discussion about that. And then we'll have a second panel discussion featuring mostly the same people about what's going on with Candace Owens. Is she about to get canceled? Is she about to get the Alex Jones treatment? We'll discuss that as well. Then Steve Kim will join us. We'll talk a little sports stuff. Shannon Sharp, they're saying 23 million to an OnlyFans model. That's what the rumor is. We will discuss that. And Bill Belichick, his players in North Carolina are saying that, his relationship with Jordan Hudson is no distraction. We'll get Steve's take on that. And I'll end the show, as I like to do a lot of days, with as the WNBA turns. I'll have some comments about the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark. The Indiana Fever won a big game last night over the Las Vegas Aces. They've now won three. You could argue their three most impressive victories have come without Caitlin Clark. I'll delve into that and what that means. Anyway, buckle up for a fantastic episode of Fearless. I want to get right in because I don't want to make the panel wait for too long. So I want to go right into my take on Hulk Hogan and what the way he was remembered yesterday over social media and how that connects to the racial divide that's being promoted throughout all of America. So Black Twitter yesterday went after Hulk Hogan. They went after Hulk Hogan and trashed him over his the racial rant that that they released in 2015. I believe he said these things in 2007. It was some kind of recorded deal in 2007, but it wasn't released until 2015. And if you remember, the WWE disavowed, moved away from Hulk Hogan in 2015. He's on this audio tape, this audio recording, talking about his daughter dating a black guy, and he wishes that his daughter was dating one of those 8-foot tall N-words that was worth $100 million playing in the NBA. And this canceled Hulk Hogan for some people. This came out in 2015. But for a lot of people, it did not cancel Hulk Hogan, because a lot of people, like myself, are like, hey, man, if my private conversations, things I said to my friends, family, in private, if they ever went public, holy cow, you could cancel me as well. And then there was a lot of Hulk, I think, in a Sirius XM interview, was telling stories about rapper friends or people he would see out, celebrities he would see out in Miami and in public that would call him the N-word in, ninja or with the A, not the hard R. And then they would tell him, he would complain or say, hey, man, what are you doing calling me that word? And they'd say, no, you can say it. There's videos of Hulk Hogan riding around listening to rap music. He's been inundated with the N-word from black people, and he talked about that during a Sirius XM interview, and he talked a lot of things that were politically incorrect. And so for a number of black people, Hulk Hogan being racist cancels him. And I just happen to live in a more nuanced, transparent, honest place. Like if racism or alleged racism or saying the N-word canceled people, virtually all of us would be canceled. And probably a higher percentage of black people would be canceled than white people. And that's not me saying white people are better than black people. That's me saying the reality is that black people are so comfortable with their anti-white racism that we say it, we use it, we go on national TV and say things that white people would never be allowed to say. And it's just the reality. We've built a society, a culture where black people can be incredibly racist without any consequences, whereas white people cannot be. And Hulk Hogan, a prime example of this. Anscape, the ESPN platform that covers sports and race, they did a story yesterday. I think it's David Dennis did the story, and it was all about how Hulk Hogan's entire legacy has been wiped out, wrestling and everything, because of these racial things or racist rant that got released in 2015. I want to read an excerpt from the article. Because Hulk Hogan is a self-admitted racist who was caught on tape using the N-word freely on multiple occasions, and also dreading the idea that his son's arrest could mean that the two could be reincarnated as black men, when that is part of your legacy, it becomes singularly defining. As a result, Hulk Hogan died being known a racist who also became famous as a professional wrestler. He only has himself to blame for that. So he's singularly remembered as a racist or a self-described racist. Well, I'm just telling you, if that's the standard, my dad's reputation and all the things that he accomplished through me and my brother and through his own work and the way he conducted himself in his life, then I guess he's singularly defined as a racist. And my father was much more than that. And Hulk Hogan, much more than that. And there can't be these, oh, well, if you do this to black people, that defines you completely. If you do this to Jewish people, that defines you completely. That's not a fair standard. It's not a realistic standard. It's not, it's the kind of thing that has led to this racial divide that we have in America that's getting worse and worse and worse. Race relations in this country had been, in the early part of my lifespan, and I was born in 1967, they were headed a positive direction. Since the advent of the invention of social media, since the takeover of Twitter and the town square, since we all went woke, race relations have been going the opposite direction, to the point that this year there have been multiple stories published and written about whites-only communities being started. And there's been one started, I think, in Arkansas, and it's called Return to the Land. And I saw an article on The Root referencing this. I saw an article on the Independent representing this. Whites only community plotting expansion to another state as its efforts to build a white nation continue. And I'm going to say something here that I don't even feel good about saying, but it's just the reality. If I had a choice, and I do have a choice, and I've made a choice, like, hey, if I have would I rather live in a white community, an American white community, or an American black community? And I'm not alone in this. I'm one of the few people transparent enough to say it. I would rather live in a whites only community in America. Now, I'm saying it out loud. Most black people don't say it out loud. They say it with their feet. As soon as they get enough money, they move out of a black community into a white community. This is not a positive development. That the social media conversation has so backfired and boomeranged, and I'm not even sure if it's backfired. This may be the intended consequences, that we're now in this era where white people are saying, I want to segregate, and there's a group of black people saying that they want to segregate, but they really don't mean it. But I look at what happened to Hulk Hogan. I look at the rules that have been established in social media, these unfair, unequal, stupid rules that have been established over social media, where black Twitter can be as racist as they want to be without any consequence. And part of me thinks the algorithms on Twitter have been rigged for a long time to elevate and amplify black racist voices, to put it in the face of white Americans, that people have been promoting this black-white racial divide, that this is what they want to happen. And it is happening. Here's a news story, I think from NBC, that talks about this whites-only community in Arkansas and how they have plans to expand. Let's play that clip.
No blacks, no Jews, no gays. High up in the Ozark Hills in the state of Arkansas, dozens of people have been working hard, building houses and a new type of community. It's called Return to the Land, and it is a town open to white people only. They are millennials and Gen Z, and this is a new update of age-old prejudice.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, our culture.
And that culture, effectively, we're saying this is a white culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
But what this sounds like is bringing back segregation. Is that a fair assessment?
It's free association. So we're not trying to keep other people down. This is a small settlement in the middle of the Ozarks.
But they are being kept out, even if...
Well, you don't let everyone into your home.
Around 40 people live here. Hundreds more from across the world have paid to be members. And while the men do the physical labour, the women take care of the children who live here full time. It could be a very loving community if you're part of the community, but if you're black, or if you're Jewish, or if you're gay, you can't be part of that community.
They can have their own communities, and they already do.
You might be wondering how any of this can be legal. Return to the Land is structured as a private members association, which they believe allows them to discriminate on the basis of ethnicity, along with other factors. That has yet to be tested in the courts and may well fail. The Arkansas Attorney General has said his office is now reviewing the matter as a result of our reporting, and that there is no room for racial discrimination in Arkansas or anywhere in a free society.
Given what has gone on in the American mainstream media, given what has gone on in social media, given the rules of engagement that seem to have been established in most public places, given what's going on in our school systems, given what's being taught in our school systems, the hatred of white people, the demonization of white men. Can you blame these white people? Can you blame them? Honestly, it's no different than if you go back to the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and you looked at the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad, and you looked at them and say, you know what, we're going to build our own deal with the Nation of Islam, and we want to be separate from these white racists and all that. Could you blame them? I couldn't. And most black people couldn't. Malcolm X is an icon to this day. How can I look at these white people, given what we've been? You go to social media, and Carmelo Anthony with the K, 17-year-old black kid, stabs and kills a 17-year-old white kid virtually for no reason based off everything we know. And then you see black people donating hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to his defense. And you wonder why? Like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to live around that. I don't want to be around that. When you look at people that have put George Floyd on a pedestal and pretended like he didn't die of a drug overdose, can you blame people for saying, no, I don't want to be around that? I can't. And so there's a conversation that we have to have in the black community, those of us that don't have some irrational hatred of white people, those of us that believe in a set of standards and a morality that's consistent with the Bible and consistent with law and order and consistent with avoiding a victimhood mentality. Because that victimhood mentality is antithetical to a Christian mentality. That we have to have amongst ourselves, because we have allowed a segment of our population and exploiters of that segment of our population and social media to paint such a horrific picture of us that we don't want to be around each other, and they certainly don't want to be around us. Social media has been a plague for black people. Body cam footage that we beg for has been a plague for black people. Social media has elevated and amplified the voices of the ignorant. We had Ben Crump, we showed you the clip yesterday of Ben Crump saying that this Anthony William McNeil Jr. represented the best of us. This is insanity. And so I want to start the show there. Social media has crashed, burned, destroyed the reputation of black people, our tolerance and our caping up for people like George Floyd and Eric Garner and Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin has destroyed the reputation of black people. Our tolerance of baby mama culture, our simping for matriarchal culture and black women has destroyed the reputation of black people. Them people that are out here in these whites only community, they don't want to be around the matriarchy. They believe in male leadership like we all should. So I'm going to put a pin in this conversation for a moment. I want to thank our friends at Relief Factor, and then we're going to go to our panel, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Delano Squires, Shamika Michelle, and why am I'm going off the top of my head and I can't think of of our fourth panelist. I apologize. I'm here at my home studio. We're still dealing with the lightning strike. But anyway, I want to thank our friends at Relief Factor for making today's episode possible. So many people living with everyday pain that they think they're just stuck with. It's not true. It doesn't have to be that way. Let me tell you about Stanley and his Relief Factor story. Stanley had seen TV ads for Relief Factors more times than he could count, but for some reason was skeptical about trying it. Finally, his leg and back pain won out, so he gave in and ordered, and after just 1 week, just after 1 week of taking Relief Factor, his pain eased up dramatically. The same thing could be true for you. As I've shared with you guys on this show countless times, myself, Relief Factor is part of my health journey. It's part of the reason why I've been able to exercise more and more often, because I'm not dealing with as much pain and inflammation as I used to. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free supplement that reduces and eliminates inflammation. You can get their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. It's a 3-week quick start because 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start return and re-up because they're already feeling the benefits of Relief Factor. Don't feel like you're stuck living with pain. Visit Relief Factor at relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. When we come back, we'll have our panel picking up on my Hulk Hogan social media conversation next. We think about Joy Taylor's future, Jason Barrett?
I do think she'll resurface. I think if you look at what she's done in the last 2-3 months, she's been building her own brand, focused on the that Too Personal podcast where she was opening. Yeah, there you go. Opening up a lot more. She's been getting a little more political. One thing I know, just being a former radio boss, a lot of times when you're looking at hiring somebody, you bring them into the building and let's see what they sound like for an hour. She just went on with Charlemagne the God about a month ago. And when I saw that, okay, she's in LA, he's in New York, that's iHeart Premiere. It's a big platform. He's political, he gets personal, so does she. They don't have somebody with some sports opinions on there. Interesting. Keep an eye on that. I don't know if it'll happen. It might have been a one-off to promote her podcast. But a lot of times these kind of things happen and you go, okay, maybe there's a good connection there and it leads to a follow-up conversation.
His words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. As I told you, we're joined on the panel by Dr. Boyce Watkins. He's been on before. Obviously, Delano Squires, a regular, Shamika Michelle, and I forgot Pastor Joel Webbin joining us for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, Joel, I got to say right off the top, I don't want anyone to get confused. You and Matt Walsh look like twin brothers. Are you guys related?
Well, I was adopted as a baby, so I mean, I guess I could have been ripped away. Maybe we're related, but if so, I would be the Protestant-based version of Matt Walsh, who I do appreciate.
All right, Joel is a minister for, is it Right Response Ministries? Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. So I'm the president of Right Response Ministries. It's a social media nonprofit Christian organization, but then also I pastor a church called Covenant Bible Church in Georgetown, Texas, about 45 minutes north of Austin.
Boyce, I'm going to let you start us off. Hulk Hogan, should he be singularly defined by that racial rant from 2007 that was released in 2015? Or is there far more to Hulk Hogan than just that?
No, I would hate to imagine that a person can live 71 years and be defined by one moment. I mean, that's a life. It happens. But I don't agree with that. I think when I think about Hulk Hogan, I think about a guy that was a great entertainer through a lot of years. He did a lot of interesting stuff. I would imagine that his relationship with black people was probably more complex than that one conversation. The language, you can't defend that, right? You can't defend that kind of a rant. But I can also tell you this, I had a black father who had a big issue with white people. And if he were a white man saying those same things about black people, he would be canceled too. And so what I would say is we have to really sort of understand that life is nuanced. And I'm not in the business of believing that we could destroy a man's legacy based on one situation or one mistake, if you want to call it that. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe that was a big part of who he was, but that wasn't the entirety of who he was. And I think also what's interesting too, this is the contradiction that our people are going to really have to address. When Hulk Hogan calls us the N-word, why is that different from all these black rappers that are calling us the N-word? You know, I saw an artist on stage, and he had 100,000 people in the crowd, most of them white, and they were all reciting every lyric in his song, and using the hard N, you know, to say the N-word. So it's like, well, people are going to call you what you call yourself. They're going to respect you as much as you respect yourself. So as long as we are okay with our own artists calling us the N-word, why would I get mad when a white man does the same thing? If I run around saying my name is Boyce and then somebody calls me Boyce, I can't get offended because I told them what to call me. That's it.
Delano, I blame social media for, you know, changing the conversation, changing the way people are remembered, the demonization of Hulk Hogan. Am I putting too much blame on social media?
I mean, social media allows for the conversation to be amplified in ways that it wouldn't if we were just in a sort of traditional print media sort of landscape. So I'm not saying, I don't think we should blame social media for that, right? Hulk Hogan said what he said, and again, it was some years ago and before Twitter was a thing. But I think now it's one of those things where everybody's record, both their public record, how they live their lives, and their private thoughts, once it's made public, is adjudicated when they die. I don't think that that's particularly healthy, but it's one of those things where it seems that is going to be the case for everyone on, you know, from here on out. I remember when Herman Cain passed away and they were linking it to COVID. There were a lot of people who was, you know, stepping on his grave and saying, "Oh, see, that's what he got for going to this Trump rally," and you know, it was a very negative way to remember a person. So, I'm not surprised that this is what it is. And to Boyce's point, it is strange to me that some of the most quote unquote pro-black people have this sense that if white people do not affirm them at every step of the way in their lives, that they don't feel whole in some sense. And it's one of the sort of great contradictions, you know, in terms of race and American culture. It's like, I'm pro-black. Okay, I'm pro-black until somebody says they don't like Beyonce, or until somebody says they don't like rap music, or if they say something obviously a little bit more extreme than that. And then all of that sort of pro-blackness melts away, and then what you see is someone who with a desperate desire to be affirmed. So, you know, Twitter, as I said, amplifies it. And anybody on the sort of the center right, whenever we go, right, you can be sure that there's somebody say, "See, I'm glad he's gone," and they'll be dancing on our graves. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy on either side of the political aisle. But that's just where we live, particularly in our technological culture.
Joel, has social media exacerbated the racial divide? It was supposed to be this very democratist deal that was going to be great. Everybody gets a voice. I sit here as a 58-year-old man and say, well, maybe everyone didn't deserve a voice and a platform because, man, we are headed the wrong direction. And I think social media has been a big part of, you know, for, again, someone my age, I feel like race relations have gone the wrong direction. And I point to social media as part of the reason why.
Yeah, social media has in fact exacerbated the racial divide, but the question why, I think, is significant. I think the reason why is because social media breaks down the gatekeeping capacity of legacy media and elites within a culture and a society to be able to streamline one narrative and propagandize the entirety of the citizens. And so what social media has done is break down the gatekeepers to where any individual can say whatever they think. And so essentially, I think what it's done is social media has uprooted a lot of the propaganda of liberalism. And liberalism, if you think of it as a car, the engine is egalitarianism. It's sameness and a rooted forced equality all the way down. When we think of egalitarianism, we typically apply it, especially in the church realm, to men and women. And we say, well, egalitarianism is wrong because men and women are not the same. They're different. But egalitarianism, fundamentally, I think there's three primary categories: men and women, sex, gender, also individuals, right? Johnny and Jackie are not the same. Johnny and Jimmy are not the same. But then also peoples. And I think that what we've done through liberalism is we have tried to convince people that boys and girls are the same, that all individuals are the same, anybody can be anything, everybody could be president of the United States, and peoples are the same. We can import 500,000 Haitians, and as long as they memorize the Declaration of Independence and learn to enjoy apple pie, they're just as American as anybody else. But the reality is men and women are not the same, every individual is not the same, and peoples, nations are not the same. And social media has brought us back to having to face that fact because it's broken up the monopoly of propaganda from a legacy media.
Joel, I'm going to apologize. I got a little problem with my earpiece. And so I've asked my team, your audio is perfectly clear for everybody else, but for some reason, not for me. And so it's difficult for me to respond to what you said because I only heard bits and pieces of it. I apologize. Shamika, I want you to chime in here. Social media and the way Hulk Hogan was treated and this move where white people seem to be finally getting a backbone and saying enough is enough. You guys want to be racist? We can be racist too. Your thoughts on any of that?
Well, when it comes to Hulk Hogan, I just found out about the so-called racist rant today. I was today years old. And so for me, it doesn't change anything on the way that I think about him. My memories of Hulk Hogan is Saturday mornings with Andre the Giant and Randy Macho Man Savage. So that doesn't change for me. I do agree that social media has kind of amplified race issues. One of the things I remember saying years ago was that the creation of the camera phone was one of the worst things for Black people, simply because not only does it give us the opportunity to see a bunch of foolishness, it's giving everybody else that opportunity to see a bunch of foolishness. And I agree with Boyce when he says, when it comes to the whole N-word thing, we say it all the time. And one of my frustrations with Black people is that I get that it was something white people used to say. I was just telling a story that my grandmother told me when I was young that a N-word was an ignorant person. So it was never very offensive to me because I didn't think I was ignorant. However, as years have passed, Black people have begun to embrace the word so much so that we have a whole term now called YNs, and it's all based around behavior. This isn't really about skin color. When we think of the N-word, it's really based around behavior. And now Black is synonymous with the N-word, and it's now synonymous with negative behavior because of what we have accepted as people. Not necessarily what they tried to put on us, but what we said, okay, I'm going to take this in, wrap my arms around it, nurture it, kiss it like it's a baby, and own it. But we just didn't own a word. We owned a behavior attached to the word. That's why we have YNs. When you think of a YN, you're not thinking about someone who's going to school to become the next engineer. We're thinking about someone who has negative behavior, and we celebrate it so much as a people that it irritates me. And I think it's irritating white people, which is why we have the term black fatigue. And they are saying, listen, y'all can celebrate this. Y'all can think this is cute and cool. And this is what it means to be authentically black. But we want no parts of it. And when it comes to myself, I'm saying, hey, as long as we have some mixed communities, I'm fine. But please don't leave me with the YNs. I'm not interested.
Boys, your reaction to what is return to the land, I think is what they're calling it in Arkansas. They want to take it to other parts of the country. What do you think of some white people saying, look, we need to segregate ourselves?
I don't care. I mean, that's their lives. I mean, I think it's really fascinating. I think the brother speaking earlier brought this point up where he talked about this brand of pro-blackness that's not only falsely rooted in liberalism, right? Which right there, that's disrespectful. All black people are not liberal. It also leans on this really, really deep-seated need for white validation. I've never been a white man before. I'm sure it's fascinating, but I would probably be confused about sort of, people, this group of people that really feel the need to be wherever I'm at, right? Whatever I'm doing, they got to be a part of it, right? If I go and do something for me and my family, they're banging down the door saying, let us in, let us in. And we were trained to think that way. Unfortunately, the civil rights movement, which was heavily rooted in communism and Marxism, that's what that was. That was Marxism and blackface for the most part. It trained us to do things that make us look flat out crazy. The idea that I'm going to go into a lunch counter and get my head knocked off, like literally get beat to an inch of my life just for the right to spend money at your store is insanity. There's nothing normal about that kind of behavior. I give my money to businesses that treat me with respect, period. And so I think we have to really sort of assess ourselves in terms of like, what's going on here? What is this? And really have an honest conversation about it. So I think in terms to circle back to this community where they want to be with people that are like themselves, how in the hell am I going to criticize that when I fully believe it would be okay? I would love for it to be okay for me as a black man to do the same thing, and so I think we have to accept some of the things the pastor was mentioning earlier that I agree with, that people are different, and it's okay for us to be different. We can respect each other and be different. I have nothing. I probably identify with those people more than I identify with some of the people that look like me. Because I understand what that means when you say, look, I want my kids raised a certain way. I want to be in a community that operates with a certain code of conduct. I want to be in a space where I feel safe and supported. The world is not giving us that. When you can go to neighborhoods and bad things can happen to your children because everybody has decided that everything is okay and everything ain't okay. A lot of what we do, not just as Black Americans, but really Americans in general, is very unhealthy. And all the data shows this, all the statistics show this, breakdowns of the family. Mental health is off the rails, physical health, everybody's dying of cancer. These are all problems that I actually have a lot of admiration for anybody who says, I'm going to try to do something a little bit different to protect the people I care about. So nothing wrong with what they did. It's perfectly fine.
Guys, we're going to put a pin in the conversation for a moment because I want to not for a moment, because I want to transition into a conversation about Candace Owens and her lawsuit the lawsuit that's been filed against her by Brigitte Macron and the president of France. And so we're going to bring in Andrew Meyer. So we're going to take a pause here for about 1 minute and bring Andrew Meyer into this part of the discussion. We'll be right back when we transition into a conversation about Candace Owens. Is she cooked? Next.
ESPN sucks. Well, I think it's the president being petty. I think it's him being evasive, because the reality is that no matter how good he wants people to believe things are with the big, beautiful bill and other things that have been transpiring, tariff wars, the border issues or whatever, if you're on the right, obviously you're happy with a lot of things that are going on. And there's nothing to take credit away from that. I'll leave the political evaluations to other people.
As the reporter sitting here, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the Vrabel, like, he's right. He is right, but you also don't have to embarrass people like that. And he does that a lot.
I'm not a fan of reporters repeating questions. I'm with you, Kimberly. High five. Okay. Get their ass, Mike. Right. On we go.
And that's why ESPN sucks. All right, welcome back. I wanted to change up the conversation and talk about Candace Owens. She's been in the news quite a bit. She's made a lot of news, obviously, about her comments about Israel and Gaza, but she's also made a lot of news worldwide with her investigation, reporting, commentary on Bridget Macron and the president of France. Bridget Macron was a teacher
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
at
7,
age
8, 9, 10.
39 and started getting involved with a 14-year-old male student and eventually married him, and he becomes the president of France. Candace Owens' reporting and investigation keeps suggesting, stating, saying quite clearly she believes Bridget Macron is a man pretending to be a woman. Let's play Candace Owens in her own words, because Bridget Macron has filed a lawsuit. I think it's going to take place in Delaware, and Candace Owens has doubled down. She is not backing down. Let's play the clip.
What I'm saying is that you were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood. Figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine. Like I said, we'll get to the bottom of it, right? That is what discovery is for. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You're probably hoping, this will go away, and at least we'll say we sued her. We'll say we went after her. She'll probably file for this to get dismissed. I'd like to make it to discovery. I think that we owe that to the world. We are revolting against this. We're revolting against the perverts that run the world. And I want to be very clear here. I count you among them. I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. On behalf of the entire world, I will see you in court.
Delano, I'm going to let you start us out here because I know you're short for time. Candace Owens, force for good, force for bad. Do you think she will survive this lawsuit, or will she get done what Alex Jones had done to him through Sandy Hook, and they just kind of financially bankrupt you? Will Candace Owens survive this?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it depends on how long her money is, right? So I know her husband is, I think, independently wealthy. So, I mean, if she has the money to sustain a long, hard fight, then I think she may survive. I think Candace Owens is very entertaining. She seems to be someone who sees herself as a journalist, as an investigative journalist. So for a lot of people, she's very informative, right? She breaks stories on BLM or on this particular thing, on Kamala Harris's, ethnic identity. So I think for a lot of people, she is a force for good. Now, I will say this, Jason. I know a lot of black folk, particularly black conservatives, didn't like her sort of upward trajectory because they felt she was supported based on how much she was willing to denigrate black folks in the public square. I didn't always agree with that sentiment, but it's interesting to see how Candace Owens is the type of person who, it doesn't matter who you are or what your particular identity group is. She seems to when she gets onto something, as my wife would say, she's a dog on a bone. So I hope that on the French side, they know what they're doing, because she is not the type of person that seems that she is going to wilt away and just, allow this thing to pass without really digging in her heels and fighting. So it'll be interesting. I will say this, though. Part of me is skeptical of the notion that anyone can level accusations against a public person and then put the onus and the burden of proof and the onus for response on the public individual. And I say this regardless of identity, regardless of political persuasion. It seems that more and more the public is open to that. And whether that's accusations that Bridget Macron is a man, or that Michelle Obama is a man, or that Donald Trump did X, Y, and Z with whoever person, or that Barack Obama is a closeted homosexual, whatever the allegations are, and whoever they're pointed at, there's a part of me that's like, just because you're a public person doesn't mean that any and everybody with internet access can level accusations against you without proof. So we'll see what this works out. But Candace Owens doesn't need to feel that she's doing this on my behalf, because this is not something that's particularly relevant to my life. So,
Joel, Candace Owens, as an evangelical, she's a Catholic. She's not a dispensationalist. Candace Owens, force for good, force for bad. Do you think she'll survive?
Force for good. My wife will listen to her occasionally. My sister listens to her occasionally. I think she's done a lot of good. For the record, I am not a dispensationalist either. I despise dispensationalism. I think she's done a lot of good work in exposing Zionism and the poison that it is, and the stranglehold that Israel has over America, and that needs to be broken. So I appreciate that. I think it's different. You mentioned, Jason, Alex Jones. I think there's two key differences. One, what happened with Alex Jones and Sandy Hook was the high watermark of cancel culture. And I think we're beyond that. I think people are done with cancel culture. And so I think it's much more difficult it's like nailing Jello against the wall to actually destroy somebody to where, her career is done, or as the kids say, cooked. Second distinction is there's a difference in Alex Jones' case. It's the parents of children, who were shot and killed. So you're going up against the everyday person. You're going up against parents. You're going up against blue-collar people. In this case, Candace is going up against an elite, and I think we are at an all-time low when it comes to sympathy, the public sympathy towards elites, especially French elites. So I think she's going to be okay.
Andrew, I would love for you to respond. Not that I think there will be great disagreement, but I would love for you to respond to Joel and as it relates to the differences between Alex Jones and Candace Owens and Sandy Hook and what Candace Owens is going through. Andrew, I will say, is Jewish, and he's a great talent. That's why we had him on, but I also wanted a Jewish voice in this conversation as it relates to Candace Owens. Andrew, your response to what Joel said and your own thoughts.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate the kind words. I think that you're asking me specifically about Alex, because if people don't know, I made the Alex Jones video game, alexjonesgame.com. It's a great game. But as far as the differences in these cases, I will say I don't know what Candace is going to be able to prove, what's going to come out. She is either going to get nailed to the wall because Bridget Macron is a woman, or she's going to be vindicated massively because Bridget Macron is a man. I don't have a dog in that fight. I think the difference is not such that, it was just Alex versus the people. Alex was going against the CIA. You can go watch the Project Veritas videos where they have CIA sources saying on camera, like, yeah, we went after Alex Jones. That's who was funding the suit. Alex has been a major force for the people for many, many years, and that's why he was attacked. So Candace going after Bridget Macron, I don't know what that does for the American people. I don't really care about the Macrons, about the French ruling class. I don't care about that at all. So I found it an interesting sideshow. However it turns out, that's going to be a great win or a great loss for Candace, either way.
Andrew, what are your thoughts just about Candace in general as it relates to the whole Israel issue?
Well, in general, my first thought on Candace is I had her back on my show back when I was doing Cernovich News in 2017 when she was still known as Red Pill Black. And I had her on back when she was still relatively unknown because I thought she was an incredibly good representative of her community. She wanted to speak on the issues in the black community, and I thought she spoke incredibly well. I think since then, she's done a relatively good job getting information out to the public from a more right-wing perspective. I think she's been a force for good in that sense. And then I think, she worked for the Daily Wire, something I never would have done. I found Ben Shapiro for many years to be a guy that would slander people on the right. He would say things like Alex Jones, Ron Paul, anybody that was anti-war, he would just classify them as a white supremacist. So I would never have taken Ben Shapiro's money, which is something that she did. And then I would imagine that working for Ben for many years, she didn't have a good time, and now she's railing against everything Ben ever stood for, I guess. I don't think that she is always on the level with what she says. I know for a fact. She said that the Star of David, Magen David, is the Star of Remphan, a demonic symbol referenced, which she claimed the Bible says that the Star of Remphan is 6 stars. But when I was debating with her about this on Twitter, she wasn't referencing the Bible. She was referencing an AI post. And when you look in the actual Bible verse that she cited, it didn't say that it's 6-sided. So she was only referencing AI. I think that she gets some things right, some things wrong. I'd like to have a larger discussion with her, and I think that'd be productive for everybody.
Boys, Candace Owens, where do you come down on Candace? You enjoy her? You think she's important? You think she's influential, force for good, force for bad?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I didn't like Candace Owens for a very long time. I just saw her as another right-wing idiot. I have a lot of smart right-wing friends, but I didn't consider her to be one of the smart ones. I would just hear her kind of parakeet the same talking points that you speak when you're gang affiliated in the red-blue war, right? My opinion of Candace Owens shifted when she broke away from the Daily Wire. I knew Ben Shapiro a long time ago, and he's fine. I mean, but I see what they're doing, right? And I also remember I'm a finance professor, so I'm always looking at the money, and I know what AIPAC and the Zionist lobby does in terms of controlling our politicians and really using economic warfare as a way to quiet those who disagree with what's happening in Israel. And so when Candace disconnected from the Daily Wire and started to speak just these really powerful truths about the horrible things they're doing in Israel, that's when I gained respect for her. And I had to gain a little more empathy for her because I forgot that I'm a 54-year-old man. She's early 30s or something. I think she was finding herself. She learned that, in my view, you can't really find real truth if you're heavily affiliated with the blue or the red team. You got to be a liar and a parakeet, or they're gonna boot you out. So I love what Candace is doing, especially when it comes to Israel. Now, with the issue with Macron, I believe her. I believe her, but I want to ask her a question. I want to say, okay, so can you talk a little bit more about the evidence you have to support this claim? Because you're taking on a big battle over something that, in my view, doesn't matter that much. I really don't care who people are sleeping with. I don't care. I don't need to see her penis if she has one. It doesn't matter to me, right? So I think the question is, if this ends up being a hill that you could possibly die on, is this really the hill that you should die on? I think that the criticism of what's going on with Israel, that's a hill worth dying on, because a lot of, people are suffering because of what they're doing over in the Middle East. What the Macrons are doing in the bedroom is not, to me, that's just, that's going to get you clicks and likes on social media, but that's not really fundamentally an important topic in my view. It's not even an American topic, right? So I would say that I'm impressed with Candace's intelligence. I'm super impressed with her courage. I worry about her. I wonder if she's going to get Epsteined at some point, because she's really powerful, really direct. And if she were my daughter, because I got a daughter her age, I would probably warn her, like, make sure you're ready for this battle that you're fighting, because people have died for less. And that would be my thought on Candace. I hope that she keeps going. I think that she's doing a great job articulating her viewpoints, and you can't sit here and say she's wrong about everything. Maybe a little more evidence would help, instead of just using her highly articulate way of expressing herself as a way to convince people. I would like to see more evidence, though, of whatever she's saying. But beyond that, though, I'm actually, relatively speaking, to Candace Owens fans when she's speaking about something that's really making a difference.
I'm going to push back against Boyce slightly, but Boyce, and I apologize for this. Just the audio difficulties for me are so difficult that I'm gonna give Joel the final word on this whole deal. New guest, but Joel, I'm gonna push back on Boyce a little bit and throw it in your lap. When you talk, Joel, particularly as it relates to you, pretend like I can't hear you, because I'm hearing very little of what you actually have to say, but I do want to give you the final say, because Boyce argues that what Candace is arguing about as it relates to Bridget Macron and France is unimportant. I think it is important. I think it's important because her larger argument, and the larger argument of a lot of people, is that, look, there's a sexual deviance that is in control of global politics, not just American politics, but global politics, that people are getting placed in powerful political positions only after they've been sexually compromised in some sort of way. And a lot of it has to do with mistreatment of children, toddlers, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's why Candace is on this topic, because she's trying to open people's minds to, look, there's a president in France who started getting groomed at age 14 by a man or a woman, and perhaps that's how they're controlling all of our politicians, that this is connected to Epstein in some sort of way. And I see it, and the reason why I tend to buy into it, and that's not me saying Bridget Macron is a man, but it is me saying I'm not shocked that a president of a major country was groomed at age 14. I see this as kind of biblical, in the wickedness of abusing of young people and children. And it helps me understand the good versus evil battle that we have going on, that a lot of our global politicians, it's just not a coincidence that there seems to be some sort of sexual deviance tied to them. Am I crazy for thinking this, Joel? And we'll end the segment with Joel. So take as much time as you want, Joel. Take as little time as you want. Thank you for being a guest.
Thanks for having me. No, you're not crazy. There is a tendency, I think, for Christians to over-spiritualize, but there's also a tendency, a ditch on the other side of the road, to under-spiritualize. We think of Ephesians, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but principalities, spirits. So there really is a spiritual enemy. That said, right, because sometimes that gets overdone, that needs to be complemented, or, it needs to have the immediate disclaimer. All right, in 1 Timothy, Paul, the apostle, he writes to Timothy, a son in the faith, a young pastor, and he says to him that when it comes to rebuking your opponents, you should do so with gentleness, not knowing whether or not God might grant them repentance, that they might turn from their sin after having been taken captive by the devil. So there's a principality, the chief one, this spiritual power that stands opposed to God, after having been taken captive by the devil to do his will. So here's the point. Your battle's not against flesh and blood. It's a spiritual battle. However, the principal spiritual enemy, namely the devil, he does employ in his ranks, in his army, men, people, flesh and blood. Right? So why do you not rebuke an opponent that is a human opponent harshly, but rather do it with gentleness and patience? Because that human opponent might come to repentance. God might grant them repentance, and they could be won over after having been what? What was their previous status? Their previous status was having been taken captive by this spiritual power, namely the devil, to do his will. So our ultimate battle is a spiritual battle against the devil and principalities and demonic forces. However, these demonic forces do take captive and employ within their ranks flesh and blood, people. So you have enemies, and you don't just have spiritual enemies, you have human enemies. So it's balancing these two principles, right? It's not just a temporal war. There's a spiritual, eternal element. But it's also not just a spiritual, eternal war. There is a temporal and fleshly element. So we don't want to be Gnostics, right? So we have to kind of ride this line and keep these things in balance with one another. So all that being said, back to, am I crazy? No, you're not crazy because, number one, people do wicked things. Number two, it's not just, so from the temporal, fleshly standpoint, there is a very clear, obvious incentive. This doesn't prove anything in any individual case, but in terms of just standing above it all as a principle, we could see why there might be an incentive or a motive for people, flesh and blood, one leader up here to try to compromise another leader below them and say, hey, you can have this standing, this position, this prestige, if you do X, Y, and Z, so that I will now have, perpetual blackmail and dirt on you so that I can manipulate you to do the things that I want. So there's that element. That's the human element. But then the spiritual element is we forget that for millennia, right? This is not novel. For millennia, there have been elites in political power in virtually every culture in the world that made pacts with the devil, that actually made covenants and blood oaths with spiritual powers, with demonic powers. And these kinds of demonic rituals virtually always include blood, sacrifice, I think of abortion, but also sexual perversion, and especially sexual perversion that is homosexual by nature and pedophilia, the molestation and abuse of children. And so I actually think on both sides of the equation, I think that for us to say, so everybody's compromised, well, that has to be proven. But to assume that at least some, and I would argue probably a fair amount. So yes, it matters. This individual case matters in the sense that it all falls within this larger principle of whether it's Epstein or whether it's this or whether it's that. The idea that how many of our leaders around the world, and especially here in America, are compromised. And then in terms of compromising them, we need to understand that there's two forces that would be incentivized in that direction to compromise. One is other leaders who want blackmail so they can manipulate, but then also principalities and spiritual powers that actually they're real. They're real, and they actually can elevate people's influence and position and power and affluence. These demonic powers actually can do these kinds of things, and what they often require is allegiance, fidelity, covenant. And the way that they cut covenant with those people who choose to follow them, these spiritual demonic powers, is through blood and sex. And so, no, it's not surprising to me at all.
Joel, boys, Andrew, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. When we come back, Steve Kim's going to join me, talk a little bit more sports, talks about Bill Belichick. I'm going to let Steve's got a take he has on Hulk Hogan that he wants to get off his chest. I don't know if you guys have seen this video of Dante Jones, former NBA player. It's kind of funny, and I'm going to ask Steve about it. Guys, You got to see the video. I'll ask Steve about it. But before we get to Steve, I want to thank our friends at Flying Ace. Some bourbons chase trends. Flying Ace chases legacy. This is straight bourbon the way it was meant to be: bold, balanced, and unapologetically American. No gimmicks, no fluff, just real whiskey made for people who still believe in hard work, high standards, and doing things the right way. Whether you're winding down after a long day or raising a glass with good company, Flying Ace delivers every time. It's not about hype. It's about heritage and getting back to what bourbon was always supposed to be. That sounds like you're kind of poor. It's time to level up. Buy online at flyingacespirits.com. Use the promo code BLAZE for free shipping. You're thinking about an old fashioned on a Friday night? Flying Ace has you covered with their bourbon. All right, Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell. Next. I'm so tired of hearing about Angel Reese and her double-doubles. And many of you, as we just talked with Ryan and Jason Barrett and Steve Kim about, many of you are stat watchers. You're not game watchers. Angel Reese was back to doing Angel Reese things, blowing layups, getting her own rebounds. They've turned her into a point forward. She had 9 turnovers last night. I think her plus minus was minus 19. But all we keep hearing about, she now has 2 double-double streaks of more than 10 games or 10 games plus. She had one last year, now she has one this year. She's the first WNBA player to ever do this. She got the brakes beaten off of her. She had 9 turnovers and was just an awful. If you watch the game, she was awful. We need to quit celebrating these little distinctions.
Yeah, 모두 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps when I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell, joining us. Steve, I was told you had something you wanted to say about Hulk Hogan and the way he was treated yesterday on social media. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I found it fascinating, the divide. And look, if there was ever a time for Hulk Hogan to die, I think 2025 was much more favorable for him than 2020. Because I actually saw a lot of people saying, look, I don't care what you think of Hulk Hogan. I like the guy. And my view is this: no one should be ashamed of who they lionize or idolize. Hey, you're free to go out there and genuflect on the memory of George Floyd. Many other good Americans would rather say, hey, we like Hulk Hogan. He was a part of our childhood. He meant a lot to us, and he did a lot of good for people. But going to what you said earlier about where people are moving to and to isolate themselves and be separatists, if that's the term you want to use it, I want to ask those people that really hate Hulk Hogan or espouse it or pretend to hate him for social media clout. I want to ask this question. Who would you rather have as your next door neighbor? Hulk Hogan or George Floyd when they were both living? Honestly, who would you rather have living next to you on a day-to-day basis?
Steve, that's a hell of a question. I certainly know my answer to that question. Let me move on. Bill Belichick, his football players were asked about whether his relationship with Jordan Hudson would be a distraction for the team, and they universally said, not a distraction at all. No one cares. This is no big deal. A 73-year-old man and a 24-year-old college student or a sorority girl, no one cares. It's not a big deal. And plus, she came over to my house last night for a party anyway. I'm sorry. Do you buy that? Do you buy that it's not a distraction?
Couple of things, Jason. It's already clear that the Tar Heels are now doing the Patriot way. I'm surprised none of them blurted out, well, you want to talk football, we're moving on to TCU. We'll talk football. TCU, that's our focus, Labor Day night, TCU. Jason, if you would have asked me that question 3 months ago, when you and I talked about it at length, several shows, I would have said no way. But to be fair and accurate, I haven't seen Miss Hudson around. We haven't even talked about her. There's been no reports of her being around the practice facility. She's not setting up the cones on the practice field. All of those stories have died. I think right now that they are looking forward to TCU. So I tend to believe them. And look, these players are concerned about one thing. Two things, really. Their NIL, and can I play well enough to get to the National Football League? So, yes, I tend to believe them at this particular moment. Now, first road game of the year with those student sections with the cutouts of Jordan Hudson in her bikini, and they're going to be making all these memes and blowing them up. It'll be on their mind then. But again, at this point, I believe it is about football.
I agree with you, and you raise a good point that I hadn't thought of. She has kind of disappeared. He's got her on the back burner. Yeah. He's got her in the right sugar baby role. So hats off to
not
Bill
seen
Belichick.
Or heard. That's the role.
Yeah, he's his. I don't want to say that.
Yeah, let's move on.
Let me keep it moving. Speaking of sugar babies, there's a report by the Daily Loud that Shannon Sharp paid $23 million to Gabby Zuniga. 20 again. You got to remember, she turned down $10 million, and so it makes me think, Steve, whatever's on that tape, it ain't good. Whatever's on that sex tape, it's 10 times worse than what you think. And for those of you that have, if you listen, watch the show with your kid, to push your kid away, because what I'm about to say, it's just factual. It's not intentionally profane. But she must have been wearing something and entering Shannon Sharp for $23 million. She had, for $23 million, if that's what it took for the tape to go away, that's the kind of material that has to be on that tape.
$23 million. That is a heck of a cap hit. And I'm just going to say this to Shamar Stewart, who's, I think, the lone first-round draft choice not signed. Shamar, you may want to get that lawyer to be your agent. That guy knows what he's doing. I just wonder if she's on the Bobby Bonilla plan. Is she going to be getting payments till 2054? But they say that nothing in life is free. That right there was the most unfree, not free thing of all time. Wow, $23 million. I hope it was good. Hope it was good.
It's never that good. I can't. Do you buy the $23 million total? I mean, does he have $23 million? Has Club Shay Shay been that profitable? $23 million? Holy.
Again, the terms matter. Was it a lump sum, or is she doing the Bobby Bonilla? Is she going to be collecting $500,000 for 46 years? I mean, again, you got to read the fine print. Got to read between the lines. You got to see what the terms and conditions are. But wow, $23 million. That's a staggering amount. But again, has that really been absolutely proven? That's what he's given up? That's a big check. That's a big check. Jeez.
That 23, she may be the new GOAT. We may put her in the Michael Jordan GOAT debate. Her 23 versus his 20. It's all right, Steve. I want to end on a much more humorous note, or I don't know if you can get more humorous than that. But have you seen this video of Dante Jones? I think Dante played, I believe, with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
At one
Went
point,
to Duke.
Dante used to be on Speak for Yourself with me and Marcellus. Dante was a tiny bit woke and a little bit afraid, and so eventually I was like, Dante, you don't really fit what we're doing with Speak for Yourself, but a good young man, I thought. Anyway, look at this video of Dante. I think this is elevator or hotel security catching him on tape entering an elevator. Let's watch the clip.
Strong man is not built in peace. He's forged in chaos. He's not the loudest in the room. He's the quiet one. Grinding in silence, carrying battles no one sees. He doesn't run from pain, he walks through it. No.
What is that? What would cause someone to do that? Do we have it? What is that? For those of you that aren't watching on YouTube or aren't watching the show, he dug into his rear. He's in shorts and a t-shirt. He's getting on the elevator. He digs into his rear end, then brings his fingers up to his nose and mouth, maybe. Didn't that, am I right? Didn't that look like he brings it up to his mouth and perhaps taste? And then he wipes his fingers on the wall and then gets into the elevator. What is going on here, Steve?
Well, I hope he picked a winner, but fellas and ladies, understand one thing. In the 21st century, you are constantly surveilled. No matter where you go, no matter where you are, you're being watched. There's some sort of camera, whether you see it or not, they see you. As for Dante, that is maybe the most disgusting thing I've seen today. At least today. Wow, jeez. Man. What a sad fall from speak for yourself to that. Jeez.
I don't have an explanation for that. And there was no wet nap involved. There was there was just his hand and his rear end. And he appeared to taste it. Steve, enjoy the rest of your weekend, or enjoy the start of your weekend. Thank you so much. When we come back, as the WNBA turns, I got another take. Next. I've struggled with my health and weight loss most of my life, feeling sore, low energy, and having a hard time staying mentally sharp. But Relief Factor, it's changed all of that. I feel better, I move better, I think better. It's been a real transformation. And here's the thing, it's only $20 to try. If Relief Factor works for me, and I'm no easy case, it can work for anyone. Don't wait, call 1-800-4RELIEF or visit relieffactor.com. Check out the BYOG Bring Your Own Guitar YouTube channel and smash that subscribe button. Jeffrey Steele and I are teaming up to host musical guests for some wild interviews and performances you gotta see.
Bring your own guitar.
As the WNBA turns, starring Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson, and other angry feminists. Brought to you by George Soros, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the Global Elite.
All right, welcome back to this. I was about to say speak for yourself. Welcome back to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. It is time for, as the WNBA turns, as we just previewed, the Indiana Fever last night, without Caitlin Clark, they knock off the Las Vegas Aces. This is the second time this year they've beaten the Las Vegas Aces. Before this season, I think the Fever had maybe lost 17, 18 straight to the Las Vegas Aces. The Aces have Asia Wilson, the best player in the WNBA. I think they got 4 Olympians, 4 players with all kinds of all-star appearances. It's a super team. They didn't win the championship last year, but maybe they won it the year before that. But Asia Wilson, 3-time MVP. It's been a really difficult matchup for the Indiana Fever. And the Fever have had no success against the Aces. And now they've beaten them twice this year, and neither time did Caitlin Clark play. I think that is significant. I watched last night's game, and then I started just like connecting the dots. The 3 of the 4 most impressive victories the Fever have this year have come without Caitlin Clark, with her sidelined by injury. They won the Commissioner's Cup championship game over the Minnesota Lynx without Caitlin Clark. Minnesota Lynx are clearly the best team in the WNBA this year. Maybe they're 21-4, something like that. They sit atop the standings by a good stretch. They are clearly the best team in the WNBA. They were the best team in the WNBA last year. They got robbed of that finals championship series. Game 7, bogus call at the end of the game that I think sent Breanna Stewart to the line. I mean, they got robbed. It was criminal what happened in Minnesota. They were the best team last year. They're the best team this year. And the Fever beat the Lynx without Caitlin Clark. And then I went even deeper and started looking around like, well, what are the Fever's best victories this year against teams with winning records, teams that are supposed to be good, teams that are kind of loaded talent-wise? And let me walk you through what has happened in the Indiana Fever's best victories this season. The Atlanta Dream, early in this season, they beat them. That's Brittany Griner, Brianna Jones, Ryan Howard, really good team. Caitlin Clark, 0 of 5 from three-point range in that game. They beat the Liberty. This is the one great game that Caitlin Clark played this year, which 32-point masterpiece, 7 of 14 from three-point range. Everybody remembers this game over the New York Liberty. Caitlin Clark was on fire. Hats off to Caitlin Clark. The Seattle Storm, they beat them this year. I think Seattle going into last night was 14-6 this year, something like that. Good record. They got Skylar Diggins playing at a high level. I think Seattle beat up Angel Reese in the Sky last night. I watched part of that game. I know I'm a nut. But when they beat Seattle, Caitlin Clark, 0 of 6 from 3 in that game. Then they beat the Aces, which I've already mentioned. Then they beat Atlanta again. Caitlin Clark, 1 of 7 from three-point range in that game. Then last night, they beat the Aces, did not play Caitlin Clark. Obviously, I mentioned the Commissioner's Cup earlier in the season. That game doesn't count in the record, but it was the biggest game they played this year. They got like $40,000 a person for winning that game. No Caitlin Clark. And so I know a lot of the Caitlin Clark groupies right now are, you saying they're a better team without Caitlin Clark. Jason, you're a traitor. You hate Caitlin Clark. You're just critical. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're a better team without Caitlin Clark. That's not my argument. My argument is that Caitlin Clark, upon her return, needs to adjust her style. She needs to tweak her style. This team is not dependent upon Caitlin Clark knocking down logo threes. And that's what Caitlin Clark likes to shoot, logo threes. Caitlin Clark is not a perfect individual. There's only been one. We need to quit treating Caitlin Clark like she's a perfect individual. And that no one can say, hey, Caitlin, there's some things you need to work on. And yes, are most of the women in the WNBA angry and bigoted and, jealous of Caitlin Clark? Yes, they are. No, there's no denial of that. And has Caitlin Clark had injuries this year and blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't explain what's going on with the Indiana Fever and why their most impressive victories have primarily come when Caitlin Clark is either off the court or off her game. Caitlin Clark has to realize that what has made her famous, logo threes, are not what's best for the Indiana Fever. She needs to tame her desire to knock down 28 and 30-foot jump shots. And even though it excites fans, that's just who she is. That's not who she needs to be in the WNBA when she has teammates, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Balson, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham. that can knock down shots. They don't need Caitlin Clark taking logo threes 5, 7, 8, 10 seconds into the shot clock. They can do better. Caitlin Clark needs to adjust. The mental adjustment of dealing with the fact that for the first time she's on a team that can actually be effective without her. I think that's a difficult mental adjustment. I don't think we can focus all of Caitlin Clark's struggles on, oh, she's injured and that's why she's not knocking down three-pointers. I think she's been mentally damaged, and this I blame on the WNBA. This I blame on some of her teammates, particularly her former teammates, DeWanna Bonner, some of the current players. I think they're mentally breaking Caitlin Clark. She's struggling with her jump shot because of the mental abuse she's been taking and the defensive pressure she's constantly under. She's just off. And I'll cite this stat to back up my point. Caitlin Clark is shooting 82% from the free throw line. Oh, 82%. That's pretty good. Oh, that's what are you getting at, Whitlock? Well, I'm getting at that elite three-point shooters, they don't shoot 82% from the free throw line. They shoot a lot closer to 90% from the free throw line. Caitlin Clark in college fluctuated between 88% free throw shooting and I think a low of 84 or 85% over the course of her 4 years. But if you go look at Reggie Miller, Steph Curry, Larry Bird, Ray Allen, I think most people would consider them the greatest shooters. I didn't look up Daryl Curry, but he was a great three-point shooter. Guys that are on the court, focal points of their team, great three-point shooters. They all shot between 88 and 91% from the free throw line throughout their careers. It is very significant that Caitlin Clark is only shooting 82% from the free throw line. It's an indication that something mentally is off. There's been videos where they've shown Caitlin Clark this season when she has played that they got a psychologist that's on the sideline who talks to her during the game. The pressure of trying to carry this angry lesbian league that hates her, I think has caused some mental fatigue that is impacting Caitlin Clark. That mental fatigue, that pressure, that angry lesbian push pressure, it's not going anywhere. And so Caitlin Clark needs to adjust. If you're going to sit around and wait, oh, they're not going to hate Caitlin Clark. They're going to love Caitlin Clark, and they're going to throw rose petals at her feet, and they're not going to play her physically. That's not going to happen. What needs to happen is for Caitlin Clark to realize, hey, I don't have to do everything. I'm not carrying this by myself. My teammates can help me carry this as well, and I need to quit shooting and feeling like every game I need to knock down 4 or 5 of these logo threes. That's as the WNBA turns for today. Chew on that. You'll sound smart this weekend if you love to talk Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. I've just put you ahead of the conversation. Thank you guys for watching. That's it, and that's all for us this weekend. We'll see you next week.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I just want. I wanna be. I just want.